not responding emotionally to this thing, not responding with fear or anger or frustration, the weaker it becomes, and then kind of just leaves me alone because it has nothing to take from me because I'm not giving it anything. Hello everyone, my name is Elizabeth and welcome back to my channel. Feels so amazing to be creating again. I know it's been a while, but I'm so excited to be back. I'm so excited for the little community that we have created. So I know that a lot of you joined from my intrusive thoughts video. I've struggled with OCD and intrusive thoughts since I was about 8 years old. It's absolutely incredible to read everyone else's experience, and the interesting thing that I noticed is that everyone had obviously very unique stories, but at the same time so many similarities. And I think that if you're doubting yourself, if this is something you're struggling with, I definitely suggest that you go and click on the video. I'm going to leave the link down below, and you can click on that video and go through the comments and see how many people struggle with this, and just understand that it's not just you. You're not crazy. Clearly, this is a thing. This is a very specific thing that goes on in your head biologically. It makes you feel a certain kind of way, but the reality is that it's not you, and this cannot define you. This video, I just want to continue the conversation that we started in the last intrusive thoughts video, as well as just take some time to explain the things that kind of helped me the most in my intrusive thoughts journey in a little bit of a quicker and simpler way than in the 20-minute video that I made last time. So if you're watching this video, I'm assuming that you have struggled with intrusive thoughts, you're dealing with it now, or you know someone who is dealing with it. If anyone doesn't really know, or just if you want to make sure that you click the right video. Basically, it's a form of OCD. I know a lot of people know OCD is like compulsive cleaning or, you know, doing rituals, but this is a little bit of a different type. And basically, you have absolutely disgusting, gruesome, violent, just horrid thoughts pushing into your head non-stop. And when I say non-stop, I mean with true force. I feel like this thing just plays with your worst fears, and the worst things that you could imagine. Those are the thoughts that are vividly just smashing into your head, and you feel absolutely trapped and like there's nothing you can do about it. And that's the tricky thing. And it's almost like the more you try to tell yourself, oh my gosh, this isn't me, or what's happening, or trying to stop yourself, the more it gets. I feel like I'm at a point in my life where my intrusive thoughts and OCD is manageable. There are a lot of things that I've done, and there's a lot of research that I've done and books that I've read and techniques that I've tried, and I finally found kind of a combination of things that help me to keep my mind under control to a point, and most of the time. I just want to say that right away. I'm getting my degree in psychology currently, woohoo! But I'm not a licensed psychologist, I'm not a doctor. I'm only here to share my experience and the things that have helped me, and honestly just talk about this, because when I was doing research, when I had no idea what this was, one of the biggest things that helped me was reading other people's experiences and just hearing that I'm not alone. Because trust me, this thing makes you feel completely isolated and that no one will ever understand what you're going through, but that is not true. And I feel like the first step of getting through this is understanding that you're not alone, that this is a thing, that you're not insane and you're not a bad person. Please understand that you're not. Or one of the biggest things that have helped me was practicing mindfulness. And you practice being truly present in the now, in the moment, and trying your best not to focus on anything that happened in the past or the future, or anything besides the present moment. It's being aware of your thoughts, of your body, and what's going on around you. And one of the top things that I recommend if you are just beginning your journey with mindfulness or you want to learn more, and something that I talked about in my last video, is the book Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. That was the first thing that I read that really helped me to understand the practice of mindfulness, what it is, how to connect with your true self, if that makes sense, like with who you are at the core, instead of identifying with your head and with your thoughts. You're not your thoughts. That was one of the key concepts that I had to really grasp, because when you're dealing with intrusive thoughts, you feel like a bad person. Thoughts are just reactions. They're automatic things that happen in your head They were happening and they will be happening. And the first thing that you have to understand is that you're not your thoughts, and you can choose what you identify with. And that is how you take back control. One of the biggest things is that when intrusive thoughts attack, you feel completely helpless. You have no control over this thing, and it's pretty scary. But you are not your thoughts. You are what you choose to believe. You are what you choose to practice over time. This is not my identity, and it's not going to define me. It's just something that I have to deal with. It's something that I have to work through. You have a cold, you're sick, you have the flu, you have a broken leg. Okay, this is just an obstacle that you have to get through, and you're going to do things that are going to help you feel better. But it doesn't affect your whole entire life or the person that you truly are at the core. And I feel like that's the way you should be looking at this as well. So you're not your thoughts, practicing mindfulness. And the third thing that has helped me immensely is practicing acceptance. I'm someone who is very into like self-improvement and positivity and spirituality, and I'm still trying to figure out a lot of things, but I feel like a common misconception somewhere within that vicinity is that you always have to be positive, that you always have to think positive thoughts, and that you always have to be happy, or at least that seems to be the goal. I've learned that that kind of thinking, at least for me, actually does more harm than good. And there is so much freedom and so much just like liberation in learning how to accept yourself when you're not at your best, when you're not constantly feeling positive, thinking positive. You can always aim to feel better. You can always aim to do better. But I think the first step in anything, and especially when you're dealing with your mind and your mind playing tricks on you and sending you these awful images, is practicing acceptance. I don't know if I have any Harry Potter fans who are watching this. In The Sorcerer's Stone, in the first movie, Harry and his friends get stuck in this pit of like these vines, and they're trying to get through, but the more they fight these vines, the tighter they squeeze and they begin to suffocate them. And then Hermione says that you just have to relax, you just have to give in. And so she does that, she does her spell, and she falls through, and Ron and Harry are still struggling, and it's just getting like worse and worse. And then I think Harry goes through, but then Ron is still stuck in there, and then so Hermione does her thing and helps him. But anyways, the bottom line is that that's a great representation for how these intrusive thoughts work. It's like the more you fight them, the more you try to stop them, the worse they get, the more they push, because you keep building momentum towards those thoughts. And so the only way to stop the momentum, to stop the snowball of thoughts that keep getting worse and worse and worse, and the more you emotionally react, the more you get frustrated, scared, sad, the worse they get, the more it snowballs. And so the best way to just stop it is to start trying to accept it. For me, it helped to almost find a little bit of a sense of humor within the whole thing. And to separate this thing from me, I almost like, sometimes I like to pretend that it's an entity outside of myself that I can talk to, or find some kind of humor in it, or like, oh, okay, well, there you go again, intrusive thoughts. Just find some kind of way to ease the emotional response and to practice accepting what's going on. It does not mean that you're accepting the images. It does not mean that you're identifying with it. You're just releasing the struggle in order to find your inner harmony. And by doing that, you're going to slow the thoughts down. And the more you practice that, the less and less and less they become, and the weaker they become. Another way of looking at it is that it's like a dark cloud that's here to drain me, right? And so the more I respond to it, the more energy it takes from me, basically. And so the stronger it becomes. But if I can do what I can to gain my control back by finding acceptance and by relaxing and not responding emotionally to this thing, not responding with fear or anger or frustration, the weaker it becomes, and then kind of just leaves me alone because it has nothing to take from me, because I'm not giving it anything. These are just some things that really have helped me along my journey and along the way, and things that I keep practicing today. Again, sometimes I'll be having a bad day, my intrusive thoughts get bad. I won't remember any of this. until I do. I'm not saying that this is gonna work right away, but having some things in your back pocket or in the back of your head that you can kind of pull up to help you gain some sort of control when you're dealing with this, I feel like could be really helpful. It doesn't mean it's gonna work every single time, but the more you practice it, the more you learn about yourself, the more you learn about this thing, and I feel like the easier it becomes to deal with this. Again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a professional, but this is just my truth and this is my experience, and these are just things that have worked for me. And if nothing else, I just hope that talking about this helps. I hope that you remember that you are not alone, that there's so many people struggling with this, that it's okay, it's a thing that happens in your head, and it's a thing that you can work through, and you can feel better, and this does not define you. Leave a comment down below if you want to share your experience. I know it's been extremely helpful for me to read your stories, and I'm sure for a lot of other people. Let me know if you have any questions, or if there's anything that you want me to talk more about. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, like the video, and I will see you in the next one. Be you, be free.